Hey y'all, and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of fractions. What is a fraction? What does a fraction look like? What are the parts of a fraction? What does it mean when I say I've got a proper fraction versus an improper fraction? What does it mean when I have a mixed number? And we're going to do that all today looking at fractions. So the first thing that I do is I want to draw out a fraction so that way we can see what a fraction looks like. So here I'm going to draw out the simplest fraction there is. I've got one circle and I'm going to shade half of that circle. What I've done is I've shaded one part out of two, or 1/2 of that circle. This circle is representing a fraction. The whole thing shaded would be one whole, but since I've only shaded part of it, I've shaded a fraction or a part of the whole. A fraction is made out of two parts. It's made out of the numerator and the denominator. The numerator is the one on the top. It tells us how many parts I shaded. The denominator is the one on the bottom. It tells us how many parts it would take to make one whole. So for example, this fraction would be one part shaded over two parts to make the whole, because I count 1, 2 that would have to get shaded to make a whole. This is the fraction 1/2. Let's try some other fractions. Fractions don't always have to be in circles. I'll show you some with circles here. But they can also be in squares. In fact, fractions can be almost any shape you can imagine. As long as you're taking a shape and you're splitting it up, it can be a fraction. Both of these fractions have the same denominator. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to fill it up. 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces to fill it up. So both of these will have the denominator of 4, because 4 is how much it would take to fill it all the way up. The numerator is however many I choose to shade. So I'm going to choose to shade 1, 2, 3 on this one, and 1, 2, 3 on this one. That means that these are the same fraction, even though they look different. Even though I shaded them in different ways, they are the same fraction because I've shaded 1, 2, 3 parts out of 4. I've shaded 1, 2, 3 parts out of 4. That 3 is our numerator. It tells us how many parts we've shaded. There's our numerator and our denominator. Now let's talk about proper fractions versus improper fractions. Usually when you talk about fractions, you're talking about proper fractions. Now, proper fractions are fractions where the top number is less than the bottom number. So for example, 1/2 is a proper fraction. So is 2/5. That's a proper fraction. Both of those are proper fractions because the top number is less than the bottom number. An improper fraction has it just the reverse. An improper fraction has the higher number on top. So I'm going to write improper fractions. And an improper fraction has the higher number on top. Like if I said 7/3, because the 7 is too big for the 3. This is called an improper fraction. If I wrote 25/8, because 25 is bigger than the 8, this is an improper fraction. Okay? These are fractions. We can take fractions, and if our numerator is the same as our denominator, that means we have one whole. So for example, if I draw in a circle here, and this time let's split it into 3 parts, or into thirds. If I shade 1, 2, 3 parts, that means I have 3 parts shaded out of 3, which I can simplify down by saying that's the same thing as one whole. 3/3 is the same thing as one whole. Well, that means that if I combine together a fraction where I've got a whole, along with a fraction where I don't have a whole, I might end up with something called a mixed number. So let's look at a mixed number. If I said I've got this fraction here, and I shaded it in, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 parts shaded. I have 6 parts shaded. Out of a possible, one whole would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 6/4. This is what's called an improper fraction. But I wanted to talk about mixed numbers. So a mixed number is one where I say, instead of writing one of those fractions that's improper, I'm going to write one whole for this. This is one whole. And then whatever's left over, I'm going to change into a proper fraction. Now I've got 2 left over out of something that would take 1, 2, 3, 4 parts to make a whole. So I've got 2/4 left over. That means that we have the mixed number 1 and 2/4. 1 and 2/4 is actually the same value as 6/4. Because what we're doing there is we're looking at 2 different ways of showing the same fraction. I hope this helped, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.